Welcome back to A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast. I'm your host, Cody Depius. That is Sam Douglas. Sam is warm and sunny as the rest of us here in La Crosse, Wisconsin. He's out on the patio. I thought about it. I don't really have a patio like you do, but I am going to get outside as soon as possible after this podcast is over. It is currently 79 degrees and sunny on Pie Day. I had ice cream pie right before we got here, and it melted. That's how hot it is right now. So my name, Let's Get Hot, and Sam, a little bit of sun. How's it going today?
Man, it's going well. It's beautiful out here, man. I saw we had a nice day coming. It's St. Patrick's weekend. I think vibes are high in this town. If it wasn't spring break weekend, I think it'd be a little bit more of a lively city. The kids would be darting and all that jazz. But I bet tomorrow the streets are full. The streets are going to be packed. It's St. Patrick's Day weekend, dude. It's hot. It's 80 and sunny. Get the golf clubs out. I love it.
The people are out right now, and my friends, my buddies, they were out golfing at 9 a.m. I think, Sam, you want to set up a tee time, maybe like 5:30?
I can do that.
All right, let's do that because it is too beautiful today. And we'll start it off right now with the Badgers halftime. They are taking on UCLA in the second round of the Big Ten. It is half, and they are up 48-29. So they're hot. A little bit of a preview of what we'll talk about there. But I do want to go back and backtrack to Monday. As we always say, essentially every Friday, all the big news happens immediately after we do the podcast on Monday. So the big Packers news, which is old news to this point for any Packers fans that follow closely. The Packers have signed guard Aaron Banks from San Francisco, 4 years, $77 million, and Nate Hobbs, a corner. He profiles more as a slot corner. He's from Las Vegas. 4 years, $48 million for him. Of course, none of the big names that people were thinking about for Green Bay. What are the overall thoughts this first week of free agency?
They went out and they spent money. They shored up some spots. They filled a hole. They were active with intentional additions. I love it. I think there's flaws in both of these big guys between Hobbs and Banks. Banks, I saw he was ranked 153rd out of 200 on blown blocks. Yep. He's a run blocker. He's good out in space. He's mobile. And I think that's what we got him for. We're leaning into this run offense, and we show that when we're not calling Devontae Adams, but we are getting a run blocking guard. Talking about Hobbs a little bit, he does have a little bit of injury history. Again, that might have just made him a little bit cheaper. I think he's a good player. He's a slot corner. My only initial concern, does this mean that Nixon is going to be our cornerback one on the outside? The more I think about it, I think Jaire's coming back, dude. I think he is. I think that they said, hey, can you be a businessman? This is your job. Can you show up and do your job? Because we need you. And I bet his trade market was in the gutter. And if we're going to get a 6th-round pick for Jaire, let's pay the guy and tell him to come to work. So shoring up the defensive backfield, there's still some moves to be made, but the Packers went out. They spent some money on a couple quality players. I think we're going to be hearing their names all season long.
I think so too. And I think the most interesting point that you bring up there is the Jaire Alexander conversation, because those talks seem to have gone quiet, at least on Packers Twitter. It makes me think that there's not a lot happening behind the scenes, which would lead us to think that there's a good possibility that he's back. There's a chance that they sat him down, said, hey, Jaire, tell us what you're thinking. And at the end of the conversation, they go out, I don't hate this guy as much as I used to before this conversation. Let's go to business. Let's go to work. So that would be best case scenario for Green Bay. I mean, you're already locked up in that contract. Yes, you would hope to get some trade value back for him, but the way that it sounds is it's not all there. But that's okay, because we know when Jaire Alexander can be on that field, he still is a top 10 cover corner in this league, maybe even top 5. He's got the sword. The pack is back, baby. You heard it here first from a fan. He's a great guy to have out there on the field. You just hope that the locker room stuff kind of goes away, which maybe an extra year for Jaire, maybe a little bit more maturity. And I don't want to use this as an indictment. These are the rumors that went around, and there's not a lot of positive talk after Jaire Alexander was at the press conference right after the loss, and he said, I have nothing good to say. That's not a good look. But at this point, they don't have any more bad things to say, and there's nothing being said. So we'll see where that front goes. But I'm not opposed to Jair Alexander being back as a Green Bay Packer if they were able to work out those kinks that they had on the relationship side of what they had going on there. I do want to talk a little bit about the guys that are on their way out from Green Bay with free agency. Josh Myers signed with New York for a 1 year, $3.5 million deal. I think this is kind of an interesting one. He's going there to back up, and really the reason that Green Bay signed Aaron Banks was because they knew that Josh Myers was not going to be back. And the differences that I look here were in the contracts. Like what Josh Myers is able to bring, I personally think was worth more than $3.5 million. I think he would have been a decent backup center to have here at that point. And then they went out and signed Aaron Banks to a hefty contract. $77 million is a lot for a guy, as you said, who is prone to blowing a lot of blocks. And I will also bring up the point that the offensive line and the success you have on it is as a unit. And I do think that Aaron Banks is a significant upgrade. I don't know if it would have been worth the money as opposed to keeping Josh Myers, but overall, your job is to improve the line. And I think that they really did that with this move.
Especially with the money that you see that Josh Myers signed for. They were not bringing him back. This was planned on. Slayton as well. These are guys that they knew that weren't going to bring back. So we don't have like a veteran center presence on the team anymore. And I've kind of looked at some of the guys still on that free agency market board that are still available. If we're not having Josh Myers on the team, someone like Lucas Patrick, he's still a free agent. He's 31, played for New Orleans.
Old pal.
Bring back a little bit. So I think just if we're going to move over a classic guard to that center position, having a veteran like Patrick would help. Some other guys I see that are still available. I mentioned Tyler Lockett. I still think he's a quality snag. He's someone who's okay with being your fourth or fifth option and still be a veteran presence. He's been around winning football. Another guy been around winning football, edge rusher from Kansas City, Charles Omenihu. He's still a free agent. He's still out there. He's probably not going to be making $20 million a year or anything like that, but he's 27. He's been a part of a winning football team, and he can he's not going to be the big guy. He's not Trey Hendrickson. We're not going and getting Max Crosby or anything. The third free agent that I have, we talked defensive backfield. I already brought up Lucas Patrick. Bring Rasul back, man. He's a free agent out there. He's a 6'2" playmaker. We need a corner. We still got a little bit of bread to spend. I don't think that relationships were harmed. We got a third-round pick for him, which I think was a great deal at the time. I would love to see Rasul come back. Last guy I had as a flyer is Asante Samuel Jr. Now, he has not lived up to his potential at all. Yeah. He is still 25, and I just think there's a high ceiling with the kid.
And that's what I'll say about all these opportunities that Green Bay has and kind of what they've already jumped on here. These are the guys that Goody likes to sign. He really looks at age as I think one of the first things that he looks at when he looks at a free agent. Aaron Banks, he's 27. Nate Hobbs is 26. We might not have seen their best football yet. Your best football can come when you're getting a little bit closer to 30, 28, 29, even 30. That can be when a lot of these players hit their prime, especially on the offensive line. We'll see what can happen with Hobbs. Of course, he was playing on a Raiders defense that they didn't know who was going to be lining up next to them week in, week out. There is such a revolving door everywhere on that team. But Rasul, I think, would bring that great veteran presence, similar, like not to the caliber, of course, that you would have with Devontae Adams, but a guy that's familiar with everybody. He's been there. He's done that. He has been a high-level corner. I believe he made a Pro Bowl when he first got to Green Bay. And that third-round pick, it would look like good value, I think, if you could find a way to bring him back. I think Rasul Douglas would have brought a lot more value to last year's team than a future third-round pick, I will say. Like, they need another body there. Like we said, this all depends on what happens with Jair Alexander, and I'm a little frustrated with the fact that we haven't heard any news recently, so we can't say anything about it. We don't know. We'll see what happens, but trust Goody. Let Goody cook. He's got my faith right now. Cooper Kupp has been released, and this has been talked about a little bit. It's been reported that the asking price is pretty high, and that's why you haven't heard a lot about him recently. Do you think Green Bay is kind of sniffing the market, or what are your thoughts?
I don't think that Cooper Cup is going to land just because that price point that you said. I think he's going to wait it out, and there's going to be a team that didn't get their guys. They have some money to spend, and Cup is going to be able to go get 12 to 15 million a year somewhere. Sign a 2-year deal. The guys, he dealt with a little bit of injury. He's a Triple Crown winner a couple years ago. He's a Super Bowl. This guy's a stud. And just the presence that he's going to have in the locker room for you. I mean, Cooper Cup, he's going to make some money somewhere. And I don't think that that's money that if we're not even calling Devontae, I don't think we're putting that kind of money into the wide receiver room. Now, if it happens and he's coming in on 6.5, maybe 9 million, maybe, yeah, right. I don't know. I'll take Cooper Cup on a cheap deal. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't either. I think that number, what they have reported, is around 12 to 14 million a year. I think that's going to be a little bit steep for Green Bay. I mean, you would be bringing in another guy who's been injury prone the last 3 years. And like we said, you would just be adding to the problem that Green Bay has already had in the wide receiver room. You want your guys out there on the field, and Coop hasn't been a guy that's been out there on the field much recently. So I think that's one that would be good to step away from. So along with Josh Myers, who's exited, you mentioned TJ Slayton. He's off to Cincinnati. Eric Wilson will be going back to Minnesota. He made his way last year. He was a good defender there at middle linebacker for Green Bay. And Eric Stokes is going to the Raiders. So those are the guys out. Yeah, pretty much. You can wave bye essentially to everyone. I think the one that, seeing Josh Myers go for just $3.5 million, that one kind of hurts because you want to pull for the guy like that. You know that there is so much negative talk, and even here on a little bit of cheese. Maybe if he was tuning in, maybe his hopes got down a little bit. And I feel bad when we have to talk bad about players, but his first couple of years in the league were really tough to watch. Last year, I did see improvements. He was a 4-year starter for Green Bay, and I think that equates to more than $3.5 million. And looking at it from the personal side, getting $3.5 million for 1 year to go live in New York, he's going to be living like a normal Joe. He's not living lavishly on $3.5 million out in New York City. So those are the guys that are heading out. I think Green Bay is a better team now than they were at the end of the season, now that they have signed Aaron Banks and Nate Hobbs, and this is still before the draft. So everybody that's out on Twitter saying that Green Bay hasn't gone out there and they're okay with being mediocre and they don't want to go out there and win a Super Bowl, I think things are fine. I think this free agency class didn't provide that much opportunity for the Packers. We were talking about T. Higgins so much here. T. Higgins got franchise tagged again. A lot of the opportunities, I think the big one missed was Devontae Adams. That one is going to be hard for them to live down at $23 million a year. They had the cap space. That's one that I'm going to look back on and say that it was too perfect. Like I said, it was a marriage that was up there in heaven and God wanted to happen again, and Green Bay just didn't want to pull the trigger. Apparently, they didn't even want to talk to him. So where the Green Bay's at right now, I think it's a net positive. Now we start to get excited for that draft that'll be in Green Bay in a little bit over a month. I know Sam's been stewing a little bit overnight. I'm sure you got really, really high last night on watching that Bucks win over the Lakers. The final score 126 to 106. 22 points from KPJ. Brooke had 23 points on 89% shooting. Damian Lillard had 10 assists, 22 points. Giannis is one away from a triple-double. And Jericho Sims with 11 rebounds. You're getting contributions from the whole roster last night. I want to hear all about it.
This is a response to the Pacers loss. It is. They are ticked off about how the Indiana game went as they should be, and they responded aggressively. And that's how, man, I hope we draw Indiana in the first round, dude. I think they're going to get smoked. Last time that Hallie pulled the Dame Time celebration, I'll get to the Lakers game, but last time Hallie pulled the Dame Time celebration, the next game, Giannis dropped 64 on him. If Giannis is healthy playing against the Pacers after that, man, I hope we sweep them in the first round. I'm not afraid of these guys at all. Lakers game, we let Luka do his thing. We single guarded everybody. Doc said this in the post game. Luka had 45 and 11, and he was hitting his shots. He was John with the Nasus court side. It was a good defense, dude. They were down their center presence. They don't have much big man presence going on. And Brooke Lopez looked fast against Alex Len last night. Brooke put up 22. And then this is a big game from KPJ. Another big game from KPJ. 17 minutes. 17 minutes. He had 22, 5 from 7 from 3, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks in 17. That's a good game for a 30-minute starter. Kevin Porter
Yeah.
Jr., this guy's he's I said Andre Jackson's going to win us a playoff game. KPJ is going to win us a playoff game. Kuz, tough day from Kuz.
Yeah.
5 points, 4
Yeah.
boards, 0 assists.
Hey,
Breaking news: Kyle Kuzma's a role player.
that's fine. I mean, that's what Chris Middleton was when Milwaukee was trading him away too. Like I don't know. I do want to go back and mention the 17 minutes. KPJ was able to have an all-star like performance in the amount of time that it takes for most of us to take our morning shit. So that was like really, really solid performance there from KPJ. But you see the value of this team when it really clicks. And even Sims coming off the bench with 11 rebounds. It's what they've been missing, and they're able to put it together. They had that defensive game plan. It's got to get you feeling high. It's got to really get you fired up going into this playoffs. And I know it's this roller coaster, and I tried to not mention that Pacers game as Sam and we talked about it a little bit the day after, and I was like, what happened there? Because I wasn't able to watch the game. I saw one play on Twitter, but most of Buck's Twitter went quiet about it. And Sam, you had the heart, you had the strength to bring it up. I know that one. If you want to explain to the people that didn't catch the game, give a little bit of context to it.
Man, it hurt a little bit. It was a tight game the whole time. Bucks were in it. They really shouldn't have been in it. It kind of looked like shooting practice from the Pacers. They were moving the ball really well. We know they're a fast team, but we were efficient, brought it close, and we were up by 3. And Tyrese Halliburton hit a fadeaway 3, 4-point play. Giannis was in his landing zone. He hit a 3, turned into a 4 to win the game. Just crushing, man. This is a team that knocked us out of the playoffs last year. You knew when they were inbounding it. It's like, man, I had a rock in my gut thinking, I don't want to see how this goes. And sure enough, it was a foul on a 3, the one thing that you don't want to do. And the reason that Bucks Twitter went quiet is because it's such a rock in the gut. But, first day reaction after that sucked. I'm not talking about it. Second day reaction. God, I can't wait till Giannis sees these guys again.
Well, they don't have to wait long. They play them tomorrow.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, we got a hot streak of games coming up. We're playing the Pacers, playoff team, Thunder, playoff team, Warriors, playoff team, Lakers, playoff team, Kings, play-in team, Suns. Got to take them seriously, I guess. I don't know what the heck is going on with the Suns. Nuggets, playoff team, Knicks, playoff team. This is a stretch of 8-9 games that we are absolutely going to be tested.
Got to be men. This is where good teams are made. It is this stretch. The dog days are going to hit a little bit later as they move into the playoffs. But this is the good test I think that Milwaukee needs so they don't just sleepwalk into the playoffs. Because we've seen that before. Like the last couple weeks, they don't need to take things seriously. Now they kind of do. Now things are getting important, and you're going to be playing teams that are also taking things on an important level. So like I said, Pacers tomorrow, Thunder Sunday, and we'll get everybody else set. I know, Sam, you had an interesting graphic that you wanted to try to explain to the people. I think it was a graph describing the teams and the offensive and defensive efficiency. If you want to try to explain it to the people.
Sure. Yeah, it breaks down the efficiency, the overall net offensive and defensive of the quality teams, and you see the 4 quadrants, what teams are succeeding both offensively and defensively, which teams are succeeding just offensively, and the Bucks are really in that top tier. You've got the Cavs and the Warriors right now in this past 10-game stretch. I love what the Warriors are doing. Man, yeah. I'm kind of rooting for Steph to go get another ring right now.
Nah.
And then the Bucks are right there with them. They're very high up in that offensive efficiency, and the defensive efficiency is what's been shocking. When you do lose a Bobby Portis and you are throwing in some new guys into that rotation, seeing them up, them and the Thunder, they're a little higher on the offensive side of things. Thunder a little higher on the defensive side of things, but this is a top 4 team. Net ratings over the past 10 games. Losing Bobby, they're getting hot. They're playing well. And there's some really good teams out there. I talked about Boston on Monday, but we know the ceiling of this team. They'll go where Giannis can take them, and I've seen Giannis put up 50 and 17 in a closeout game 6 in the finals, dude. I'm never going to count these guys out, and they're playing well when it matters.
Yeah, just stay on the floor. That's the top key for this Bucks team, I really think. So, as I said, Pacers tomorrow, Thunder on Sunday. The Bucks had their win over Northwestern yesterday, 70-63. They're playing UCLA now. They had that big lead at half. It is still halftime, 48-29 is the score. Hopes for this Bucks team, and the best thing that can come out of this Big Ten tournament for them, and not in the terms of them winning the tournament, but what can this team gain from a tournament here in the Big Ten?
They can go on a run, and I don't think Michigan State's crushing teams right now. I think they'll see Michigan State, and I think they'll lose, and I think that'll be good for them. But it's about getting hot. It's about playing as a team. Tanjay hasn't missed a shot yet in this game. Knocking on some wood.
Yep, knock on that.
Yeah, Tanjay hasn't missed a shot. It's time for your guys to be guys. Tanjay was voted first team All Big Ten, which is fantastic. Good for him. Awesome transfer. I think he'll have a shot in the league. But between what Tanjay is doing today and yesterday, and what we saw Cam Jones do yesterday, I want to give Cam Jones a shout out right now with Marquette. He reached 2,000 career points last night. He scored double figures in 48 straight games, which is the longest stretch in the country right now. It's time for your guys to be guys. So this is time for Tanjay to really take over this team. Put some buckets up, and the support guys hit their shots. You know, it's Klesmit's got to hit his shots, dude. It's defense, it's assists. I think right now they have 13 assists in this game. At halftime, when they played Michigan State, they had 9 all game. Yeah. So lean on your guys, move the ball, get hot. We know the ceiling that this team can have.
Yeah, a team that just lives and dies by the three. They shoot the most threes. They lose the most games with the worst shooting percentages from 3-point. Like it's really dependent on that. If the Badgers can shoot from beyond the arc, they're gonna win. If they struggle, not a lot of other ways that they can go. They know where their strengths are, and they're playing to it. And that's how you go win tournaments, is being the best at your strength. And we'll see if the Badgers can continue as UCLA on a quick little 7-point run there to start out the half. But
good. Here we go.
Yeah. Here, let's turn it on now and see how things go here. But we can move on to the cheese grater. So I had to hop on the trivia train. I couldn't watch Sam just kick my butt in all these cheese grater questions by having just performing better than me. So I have one here. I actually have it pulled up on my phone because I did have to go to the interwebs to find it. And it is, who is the first player in NBA history to finish a regular season in the top 20 in all 5 major statistical categories, which is total points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks.
First player to ever do it?
Yeah.
Is that Giannis?
It is Giannis in the 16-17 season.
Wow.
Yes. So I don't know if he's done it since, but yes, Giannis Antetokounmpo is the answer.
My other guess was going to be Hakeem, but I don't think he would have led his team in assists. I bet Hakeem was leading his team in the other 4 categories. Mm-hmm. But to be that 5-tool guy in 2016 too for Giannis, that's before he. I love it.
Yeah. Well, that's like even thinking like Giannis was top 20 in the league in assists. Like that's pretty crazy to think about.
No kidding. They gave him the ball. And that's what they did for Giannis at a young age. Mm-hmm. They gave him the ball. They said, hey, Jason Kidd gave him that point forward job prematurely because he knew what Giannis could be. He said, you're going to struggle for a little bit. You're going to have high turnover numbers. We're going to put the ball in your hand and let you grow because not 2 years from now, but 4 or 5 years from now, the world's going to be at your fingertips.
And it was.
ESPN put out the top 10 players at their position for the entire MLB. Jackson Chourio is rated the number 9 outfielder in baseball. The Brewers had 0 other top 10 in their positions. Is there somebody that you think was snubbed?
Wilson Contreras was William Contreras. I'm sorry,
I might have missed him. He
should if he's not top 3. That's crazy. So I would say him. I think Bryce Terang just purely on defense because I think at that position without the shift there is that much value in what Bryce Terang does. I bet that Christian Yelich will finish in the top 10, but other than that, it's hard to see. I mean, Rhys Hoskins at first, he just had a really rough year last year. And first base is a hard hitting position. Like, you have to play really well to be a top 10 first baseman, especially which as much of a butcher as Rhys Hoskins is defensively at first base. Like, he's one of the worst that I have ever watched with my own two eyes play first base. So he better really hit hard. And that didn't happen last year. And like I said, I think Tourney could be top 10. I'm not looking at the total list. Shortstop, we have to see a lot more from Joey Ortiz. He's a player I think is going to be a big X factor for this team. Last year started off hot, got hurt, wasn't that guy again. They need him to be that guy at shortstop. Without him, the hole that they already have at third base is going to be a larger hole all over the left side of the infield. So guys are going to have to step up, and Joey Ortiz is going to have to hold his own. Contreras, I think, is the top catcher in baseball. Then starting pitching wise, there's no aces on this team. You think of a Freddie Peralta, but last year was not even the best pitcher on that team, and you're certainly not throwing Tobias Myers as a top 10 pitcher in all of baseball. In relief pitchers, you could think maybe McGill, but not proven enough. So, no, I think that's fair. It's a fair comparison. Yelich was hurt last year. I think he'll be back. Garrett Mitchell has an opportunity. I think he could be one of those guys, and we'll just have to see. We just haven't been able to yet because he hasn't been completely on the field. With this week being the 5-year anniversary of COVID shutting down the world, I want to ask your favorite COVID sports memory. Or maybe the first one that comes to mind.
I loved what the NBA did in general. I'll be able to, I have something on top of my mind, but what the NBA did with the bubble, it felt like that brought a lot of people together. You know, it was something live. It was something actionable. It was something for people to get behind. I think that they crushed that opportunity. You know, yes. The world was kind of falling apart, and it was a semblance of realism once again, you know, in the middle of all that. Now the Bucks season, to bring this back to Chiefs, was going so well, dude. I think they were something silly. It was like 43-8 or something nuts. Like the Bucks were just running the league. And then you know they ran into the Heat in the bubble. But Dame Lillard, that's what it was. I think that's when Dame brought the Blazers to the Western Conference Finals, and he had a game. I think he put up 53. And his legs were beat, dude. I think he played, you know, like 52 minutes that game. And at the end of the game, you could see he was shaking and still hitting just fadeaway shots off one leg, jumping all over the place. It was just an incredible Damian Lillard game in the playoffs. Clearly the team on his back. That's got to be it for me.
That's what awesome. About you? Mine, so it comes to think, because that would have been my first year actually at college. So watching the Bucks in the bubble was like a big thing for my friend group, my newly found friends, just watching how everyone thought about the Bucks team. I had one buddy who was at a point, which he's a little weird about this topic, but at the time he said that the Bucks should really be focusing on building around Chris Middleton, and they should try to get as much value in a trade of trading Giannis. And at that point, I knew that he probably wasn't going to be someone I can have on a sports podcast in the future. So here we are, Sam. But I always think back to that, and I'll always think back to the first baseball game that I attended that year, because I remember that spring of 21 when it took so long for baseball to just let people come back. I remember when they announced we're going to let people back in the stadium, all my friends were like, we have nothing else going on. It's all online school. Let's go to a game in April. So we paid $8 for the nosebleed tickets. We went there. We had our drinks. And when I got to the stadium, I realized that I forgot my mask in the car, which was, if you know Miller Park at the time, and even now it's American Family Field, the parking lot's pretty far away, which it was funny because I made sure as we got out of the car, hey, nobody forget your mask, because you need a mask to go on and they don't provide them. So I was the one who had to run all the way back, and I got back in the middle of the second inning, and the Brewers lost to Pittsburgh, I think, like 7-1. It was just a terrible game, but just a great memory with my friends my freshman year, and me being an idiot and forgetting my COVID mask after reminding everybody that they shouldn't forget that. What is the Bucks' goal over this next stretch of games?
Win them, play well, stay healthy.
Put a number to it. So over the next 8, where it's all playoff teams or playoff contenders, how many wins do you want?
6-2. 6-2. It's time to start winning. Giannis said it last week. It's go time. It's time to lock in. It's time to get healthy. It's time to win these games. It's time for the role players to do their jobs, and it's time for Giannis and Dame to be leaders and establish themselves. It's go time for the Bucks. It's a long NBA season. But we're getting to that point. Now we're playing playoff teams the way the schedule wrote. It's not a cakewalk. We have a history of not playing well against really good teams, especially the Cavs and the Celtics. So for confidence for us going forward, play these guys good. And dude, absolutely rock the Pacers, man. That's it. If we go 1-7, give us the 8 seed. I don't care. But if we rock the Pacers by 85, that's a win for me.
All right.
I'm going with another baseball question for you.
All right.
If you had an ace of a closer, what would you want his pitch to be, his style? You get one pitch to be like, this is his thing. Is it 103? Is it a knuckleballer? Is it being able to go from 75 to 100? You get one style for your perfect closer.
Give me Mariano Rivera's cutter. Like that dude needed one pitch to be the best closer on the face of the earth. And I can't remember, I think it was against the Boston Red Sox when Mariano was on his farewell tour. And he was gifted a rocking chair made of bats that he shattered over the course of his career just playing the Boston Red Sox. That dude broke so many bats with his cutter the way it would ride into the hands of a right-handed hitter. It was incredible. It was the one pitch that you needed. And really, as a closer, all you need is one pitch. And 103, it can be awesome. But I'll still remember that one time Jonathan Lucroy took Aroldis Chapman about 450 to left field off of a 104 mile an hour fastball, middle. Like, velocity's awesome, but something about Mariano Rivera's cutter, I don't think we'll ever see something like it again. But that's all he needed. Give me the best of all time, and that's Mariano.
That's fair. I love it. Last one I had. Who's your first pick in the draft if you had a team? Assume you need everything. Talent-wise. Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, you go into edge rush, you look at these 3 guys. Who's making the biggest difference?
As much as I haven't liked the way that he's talked about what he does being more difficult than what Shohei Ohtani does, I think I have to pick Travis Hunter just on pure ceiling. Like when you think like he was the number 1 player coming out of high school at both wide receiver and cornerback. He went to Jackson State to go learn from Deion. And then of course followed him to Colorado. He went to the perfect spot and learned from the perfect guy. And I think Deion's a very good coach. I think he's a great leader of men. He has developed so many players and so many characters, and they all bust their balls. It's awesome to watch these guys go into the NFL draft like this. And although I disagree with the way Travis Hunter handled the Shohei Ohtani question, where he said what Travis Hunter does is more difficult than what Shohei Ohtani does, I really think he would be my number 1 overall pick just off of pure ceiling. Because if you can hit his potential at just one position, then you've got a home run, you've got a Pro Bowler, and someone who could be in the Hall of Fame. He's one of the most athletic talents I think that we've seen, one of the most versatile players we've seen. And if you miss, at the worst, you have a player that can at least fill in at multiple spots on the field. He's versatile enough. I think him walking onto the field is going to give you value at slot receiver, and he's going to be a number 3 cornerback on your defense. Like, he's a guy that can do it. You just have to pick. And it'll be interesting to see what teams want to do with him. But I just think the ceiling's too high to pass up on number 1. I don't think the quarterbacks are number 1 worthy, as we've seen in the past. I think that there could be a guy in there. I just don't think that you have your franchise guy out of that group of quarterbacks. And I hope I'm wrong, but that's just the gut feeling I have on this. But I really think Hunter could be that guy. What do you think?
I completely agree with everything you said. I think when you get these freaks of nature, the one of ones, you take them. I mean, we saw it with Luka when he was coming into the draft. He was a one of one type of guy, coming out of Europe. Obviously, LeBron and Shohei, you get these one of ones. These nobody's like this, nobody's doing this, and he's excelling at but everything he's doing. Like the tape is there, the ceiling is there. He's giving you everything. You don't see a lot of like wide receiver cornerbacks being the 101 because it's a big quarterback edge rusher type of situation. But yeah, the ceiling is so high for Travis Hunter.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we head off into this warm, beautiful St. Patty's Day weekend, do you have a message for the people?
I got a little bit of Gouda.
Give me some Gouda.
Yeah, I got a quote from Kevin Porter Jr. I thought it was really neat.
Awesome. See, with KPJ, this could go anywhere, so I'm excited.
It feels good being able to contribute to wins. I've never been on a winning team or organization. I don't know winning ways. And that's what I've been learning here. These guys, the environment, the atmosphere, the team, it's just been team, team, team. And I've been soaking up the knowledge and wisdom from these guys. And it's been beautiful, honestly.
Oh, that's such a home run. That fires me up, man. That makes me so happy for this situation for everybody involved. Marjan Beauchamp, that's who the Bucks traded away to get Kevin Porter Jr. And this guy has just knocked it out of the park ever since he stepped into the building. And the fact that he's saying all that now and he has that realization, like, I have picked up so much from these guys, like just how to win. Like, and he's added so much to that. That fires me up. I think that's a great way to end it. As I said before, let's get hot. I'm Cody Depius. That's Sam Douglas. We'll see you back on Monday for another edition of A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast.